Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. So being a Godzilla fan, I have the problem of trying to figure out which line of figures, Godzilla monsters, I want to collect. Before Godzilla exploded and everybody under the sun got the license to make figures for this IP, this franchise, the only thing that there was out there was the Bandai vinyl figures. And I was enjoying those a lot. Like, as a matter of fact, some of the first figure reviews I did were on some of those vinyl Godzilla figures. And the more and more I think about which line of figures I'm going to collect, the more and more I keep going back to those. Because while they were pretty much pre-posed and didn't have any articulation, they were basically like statues that could move a tail. They looked really good. They were more or less scaled to each other. And I liked the look of them. I liked the paint apps. They had a lot of the Kaiju available for it. But when the license started getting passed around to the toy companies, that's when I thought maybe I should go for one of the action figure licensees. Monster Arts was right out, because while I don't doubt that they're a really good figure, and while I don't doubt that you get a lot for your money, and the quality is probably there, to me, there's too much articulation on them that, especially like with the torso and everything, it kind of breaks up the look of the figure, and it doesn't really do much for me. The Hiya Toy ones always seemed a little too small. Originally, I was going to go with the big, chonky Super 7 Ultimates figures, and I have some of them. However, even before the price hike, what we were getting compared to what we were paying for with those Godzilla Ultimates, and they weren't really doing a lot of the other Kaiju that were out there. Like, there were a lot of Godzillas that all used the same buck. There was a couple of Mecha Godzillas, or maybe only one Mecha Godzilla. There was Biollante, which I have, which is kind of like one of those things that I regretted buying, because Biollante was basically just a plastic slug with no articulation to her. And that was really bad. Oh, and I have the Ultimates DESTOROYAH that I haven't even taken out of the box yet, to be honest, because I don't have the Ultimates on display anywhere, because I pretty much boxed them up. Oh, I also bought the Toho Ultimates Shogun Warriors Godzilla figure. So that was the only one that didn't use the same Godzilla buck. And even that one they remade numerous times, including a glow-in-the-dark version. So the Ultimates were right out. These are their Super Kaiju figures that I think these are like 5-inch figures, kind of an upsized version of their reaction figures by and this is by Super 7, and this was the next one that I was going to give a shot at. Which, honestly, if I don't get into these, I may end up going back to those Bandai vinyl figures. We'll have to wait and see. These are the first two of the reaction figures that I picked up. I got these at from Target. I got these as part of their Fall Geek Out. Target has a number of Target exclusives for these Super Kaiju. I'm not really sure where else you can get them other than like Target and maybe Super 7's website. I don't know if these are readily available at other retailers, because quite honestly, until I saw DESTOROYAH over here, I didn't really even look at getting any of these. It was this guy that made me want to try it out. So here we have Super 7, Super Kaiju, DESTOROYAH 95, and Godzilla 02. Leave us a like as we take a look at something completely new. First off, I have to say, I really dig the packaging on these. I don't think they're all in this black and white packaging. I think, like, depending on the era, depends on the colors of the packaging, because I know they also have a comic version of Godzilla that has a very comic looking box, I'm pretty sure. But the box is pretty solid. Like, if we take a look at one of these, I like the size, I like the dimensions. You have your big window right here, a window on the side so you can even see the beastie looking at you. On back, we have a cross-sell for the other figures that are part of this line. And this is what I mean. We got Godzilla 95, we got Godzilla 89, and we got Godzilla 02, and we have Mechagodzilla 93 and Destoroyah 95. Why didn't they release 95 with Destoroyah? Why was it 02? So we have lots of Godzillas, but not really much as far as like things for him to fight. And I have to believe, I haven't seen any of the other Super Kaiju figures, but I'm curious if that's because they basically use the same body and change the head on him. I would be real interested to see that. But that is what our cross-sell is. I really like this. The city is crumbling, caution. Build your own city ruins with destroyed building accessories, one included with each Super Kaiju figure. And we'll get to that once we open the box up as well. On this side, we have the Super Kaiju logo with some kanji right here. I'm guessing these are the monsters' names. I don't know. Up top, we have Godzilla, and then Godzilla. And on the bottom, we have all this nonsense. So, without further ado, let's get these open. And I think we're going to go with... We're going to open up Big G first. Okay, so looking at Big G out of the box, the first thing I want to comment on is the sculpt is pretty decent. I mean, it is what it is. It's Godzilla from from 02. So he's just going to be this big, chunky, textured man in a rubber suit looking thing. But I like the texturing that they did with him. I like the sculpt that they did on his headpiece along with his jaws. I like the paint apps on his eyes. Both of them are staring straight ahead. I dig that. The dorsal spines coming down. These are surprisingly not soft. Like the tips bend, but the plates themselves are stiffer plastic so that they'll hold their shape right down to the tail. Now, when you get to the tail down here, this is a much softer piece of plastic, especially the dorsal fins right here, because there is a bendy wire in the tail. It's not a very long one, but it still lets you get at least some sort of movement out of Big G's tail right here. And then we have the slight yellowing on the claws right here. You can see the texturing of the torso, of the body, painted the claws down here as well, the talons on his feet as well. A lot of companies don't paint these parts, don't paint the feet claws, the feet talons very much, and that kind of drives me crazy. I do at least appreciate that it was done here. Also, the sculpt of the figure helps to hide the trenching. Like you can see that right there, but you can really just lose the trenching in the details of the figure. So speaking of trenching, speaking of articulation, let's check out the articulation on Big Z right here. The head does nothing. There's no up, there's no down, there's no tilt side to side. It does turn. It's a very tight turn. Okay, he can, there you go. I think he's loosening up. So he can get a full 360 turn right there, but that's all the head is going to do. He does have a jaw articulation that you can see closed up. I really like how the front fangs overlap the bottom hinge of the jaw right there, but then opening up, we have some paint apps on the tail. The tail actually looks wet. Coming from the side though, fully open looks kind of derpy. So like something like this would probably be your best bet. I understand that's the jaw hinge right there, but I don't know, something about that doesn't look right. Maybe if you were able to lift his head up to like get that full jaw open rather than just this falling down. At the arms will go a full 360 degrees. Obviously there's no butterfly joint. They will come up to just there. There is a hinge and swivel, a single jointed elbow that will come up past 90, and you get that hinge and swivel right there. Nothing in the talons, in the hands. No rotation, no pivot, no nothing. Any movement to get them to shift like this is coming from the elbow joint. Nothing in the torso. Big legs that will come forward. Is that forward that much? And go back that much? There's no going out to the side past that. We also have a single jointed knee that will come up to, it's hard to gauge where it should be coming up to. We have a single jointed knee that bends right there and is a hinge and swivel joint as well. And we have ankles that are stiff that will rock back, ankles that are stiff that will rock forward, and then we have a forward-facing pin for some rocker right there. So there's articulation on this guy, but there's limited articulation on this guy, and there's really not much you can do for like a standing pose other than this right here, this kind of partially squatted down, lumbering, dragging the tail behind him pose. On the back right here, there is like a ball joint right here at the base of the tail, but if you bring the tail down too far, you can start to see the gapping right there. The tail does twist as well as have a bit of a bend. There's virtually no side to side in the tail. It can go that way, but can't go back the other way. No, I feel like, okay, there it can, yeah. But once again, you'll start to see the gapping back there. So that is our Godzilla. All in all, he looks good. He moves fairly well. His joints are a little tight, but I don't feel like that's anything to worry about. Like, they're not so tight that it feels like he's going to break. It's just tight enough that that first movement can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. I mean, I like him, but there's not much else other than this, which is what we're going to take a look at next. So as the box said, while most Super Kaiju come with like ruins or building pieces, this one comes with a maser cannon. And quite honestly, like, I thought this was going to be cool that it came with the maser. I thought that would have been like a really nice addition. But quite honestly, I think I would have rather had the building piece. First of all, look at this. You have this big block right here underneath the tires of the vehicle. And it protrudes further than the vehicle so that you can just set it down and slide it. There's no wheel movement. There's no nothing. It's just like a toy from like the 40s or the 50s. There is a turret that the maser gun will turret right there. So that's cool. But it's an odd color. There's no paint apps. If it wasn't for the fact that this bends, I might even think that this was made out of wood. And it's not really to scale with Big G, nor is it to scale with the buildings that come with it. And you'll see that once we get DESTOROYAH open. But this is cheap. To be quite honest, this is really cheap. And I get that it's a pack-in. I really do, but no paint. Not even like a little bit of like just black lining or something. I mean, even Jazzwares like gave us the base paint apps, the most basic paint apps to like the pilots in the first couple waves of Micro Galaxies. This is just an off-white, almost gray piece of plastic with no rolling wheels, a block that the vehicle basically sits on, and a turret as its only action feature. And now it's time to take a look at DESTOROYAH. Okay, so with DESTOROYAH, there is some assembly required. The tail was too big. He didn't fit in the box with the tail, so we do have to pop this on. You can see he just has this socket right here on his butt, and just socket hole on his tail. So let's just pop that in. Oh, this hurts because he's so spiky. I'm trying to grab him up front to push in on this. Ouch. Ouch. There we go. And now, thankfully, I will never have to do that again. It doesn't look like there's an actual up or down on the tail because both sides looking, okay, no, there's the bend holes, so that will go on the bottom. But there we go. There is our DESTOROYAH. So next up we have DESTOROYAH, and DESTOROYAH is a little bigger than Godzilla, not really to the size that he should be based off of their facing off in the movie, but he has a little bit more bulk. I, once again, really like the sculpted details. Like, you would believe that this centerpiece could open up. The spikes on his armor are painful. You heard me saying ow when I was trying to plug the tail in. Back here, we have the wings that we can spread easily. Like, they have articulation that you can just close in completely on the back right there if you would want to. Me, personally, I like bat wings out. I think that is a really cool look for him. Paint apps, fairly decent. More than what Godzilla has, but mostly it's the center chest piece, the horn, and then the eyes and the teeth as well. Well, and also the claws. So having more paint apps, spot on, really works well, especially like with this shading here around the wings. And you can see, I can't tell if there's a wash on his back right here or if that's just shadowing, but I think there's a bit of a wash right there to help draw out the detail of his spine, of his spine protector right there, which I think is really cool. Now, let's take a look at the articulation. That just like Godzilla, there's no up, there's no down, there's no side to side. Unlike Godzilla, his neck does not turn, but his head does turn. But also, because of these parts coming down, he won't be able to do a full 360. He can go that far, and he can go that far. Like Godzilla, the jaw is articulated, and see that with him having this open this wide, that actually looks better than what Big G is doing. Nothing at the waist. The arms have the ability of doing a full 360, but there is so much sculpt to DESTOROYAH here that he kind of gets in his own way. And I'm fine with that. DESTOROYAH is definitely one of those ones that you need to have form over function because there's just so much going on with him. So you saw that the shoulders move, the arms can come up only to there because then the shoulder pauldrons interfere. He has single jointed elbows right here that, just like with Godzilla, they have some pretty decent travel right there. A hinge and swivel at the elbow, no wrist movement, nothing going on in the wrists for this figure. On back, we have these, you saw the big wings moving, but then the smaller guiding wings here, they can be flared out, twisted out as well if you would want to do that. And then bring those wings down, and there we go. He's ready for flight. Legs. Legs will go that far forward. Legs will go that far back. There's a much larger room for movement, mainly because of this gap they put between the body of the figure and the legs themselves. So much of a gap that you can even see there's like, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that on camera, but there's a bit of like meat sculpting on the inside of the leg there. This is as far out as they will go. It's really just pivoting his feet out, nothing else. He has single jointed knees, but because his leg armor is so chunky, they don't move much. So single joints there that only go to there, and we do have the hinge and swivel on that. Ankle rocks back, ankle rocks way forward, and then we have a forward facing pin. We have ankle rock, but we don't get much travel because, as we've seen with a lot of this figure, it's getting in its own way with these armor pieces coming down that are interfering with the ankle rocking side to side. Now on the tail back here that you saw me put together, we do have a swivel there. There's no hinge, but just like Godzilla's, it has a bendy wire in it so you can position it, but his tail is not nearly as long as Big G's is. So this is the building piece that they were talking about on the back of the box, that each kaiju only comes with half a building. Some come with the lower half, some come with the upper half. The idea being that you can put the two building pieces together, make one tall building, and then they will be destroyed. Isn't that fun? Truthfully, for all this is a non-painted, sculpted piece of hollow plastic with a bottom that will match, they could have just put both halves into the box at the same time instead of making you go buy something to get the bottom half of the building. Like, basically, if all I got was DESTOROYAH here, this is an accessory I can't use. What sense does that make? because, like, I guess I could set it down, but it doesn't look right. It's not nearly tall enough. So there should be another one on top and make the buildings about that tall. This doesn't make much sense to me. This is a waste of money, a waste of plastic. Okay, so here we go. Putting the tape measure to them, we can see that Godzilla, which would be the standard for the line, is about 5 inches tall to the top of his head. DESTOROYAH over here is, if we're not counting like the chitin exoskeleton right here, DESTOROYAH is 4 7/8 to the top of his head. No, let's make that... Wow, I was off. Let's make that 5 1/8 to the top of his head. And then 5 3/8 to the top of his horn. Okay, so here we have our Super Kaiju set up with a couple of other Godzillas that I referenced earlier in the episode. And we have our vinyl Bandai figure here, and we have our Super 7 Ultimates here. This is, I think this was a Comic-Con exclusive. This is Bloodthirsty Godzilla. This is based off of a comic book, but this is also the same mold, the same body, the same everything as pretty much every other Godzilla that has come out, with the exception of -1. So if you see this one, you see pretty much all of the Super 7 Ultimates Godzillas. So size comparison wise, like, it's obvious that the Super Kaiju are the smallest of them, but we knew that going in. These are basically beefed up reaction figures. Now, the Ultimates here has pretty much all of the same articulation as the Super Kaiju. You can see that they turn at the neck, shoulders, elbows, knees, which is nothing really to speak of, and we'll talk about that in a second. And they have feet, ankle rocks, that are really tough. And they have the Ultimates have a segmented tail instead of having a bendy wire in them. Now, let's move these guys back. The Bandai one here has articulation, but you can see it's pretty much in a pre-posed stance, which for these, I don't really mind, because you kind of knew what you were getting into when you would get them. They have hip joints, arm swivel, and that's really about it. The tail doesn't articulate, excuse me, the tail doesn't articulate, the wrists don't articulate, the head and the jaws don't articulate. But one thing I can say about these Bandai, they're vinyl figures, but man, do they look good. Man, do they have some good paint apps. Man, like, for the price that you're paying, you're getting like some nice detail in the body, some spot-on paint apps, the mouth and the eyes right here, and the purple for his dorsal fins. And just look at how wild these fins are. I love that. Now, if we bring our Ultimates up, whoop, let's rearrange some of this stuff. Come on, Big G. If we have our Ultimates, you saw that there is the neck articulation, the head moves, rolls around on a ball joint, arms, shoulders, bicep swivel, single jointed elbows, no hinge and swivel, but it does have the bicep swivel, wrists twist, wrists hinge in and out, the legs move for all the good that it does. This is big and chunky, and the knees really only go from there to there. There's really only one click, and then the ankles rock back, the ankles rock forward. There is a forward-facing pin for some rocker. The paint apps on these aren't horrible, but one thing that drives me crazy is the jaw isn't articulated here. That to get an open mouth roar, there's actually a separate head sculpt that you have to swap out. Why they didn't articulate the jaw like they did on our Super Kaiju, I don't know. So that's what we have to compare them to. Like I said, I don't get the Monster Arts figures. I don't have any of the Haya ones. But this is what I have to compare them to. And honestly, these so far, out of the Bandai, out of the Ultimates, the Super Kaiju right here, despite having less articulation than the Ultimates, being smaller than the Bandai, these, for what you get kind of are my favorite. I like the bendy wire in the tail. I like that you can pose the tail. I think it works better than just this segmented tail back here. The lack of articulation in the claws and in the wrists doesn't really bother me that much, especially for the size of the figure. My big issue with these is something kind of similar to the Ultimates. My issue with the Ultimates, and we're going to talk about that right now. My big problem with the Super Kaiju is, this is it. This is what you get for $35. You get a figure, which is decent. I think I've established that. I really like the paint apps. I like the articulation. I like that the jaw opens and closes. I like the sculpt of them. I like the sculpt of both of them. I think Godzilla here looks really good. I like the dorsal fins. I think his head sculpt is fantastic. I think the paint apps are very well done. But for $35, getting 5.5-inch figures and these as the accessories, like, this is just embarrassing. Like, for a company like Super7, this is embarrassing, this piece right here. This, I mean, the wheels aren't even like real wheels. It slides on this slab underneath. The buildings, you have to buy, like, this is only half a building. This is half an accessory. You have to buy another Kaiju, another figure, to get this to work right. And then you have to make sure you buy one that has a bottom to it, and not that you get one with another top. It's a marketing gimmick. I mean, that's all it is. This is just to ensure that you'll buy more than one and that you'll buy specific ones. I don't like that. I wish they would have just gotten rid of these and given our boys some blast effects here. Like, his jaw opens. You could get something to peg in there. You could fit something on his horn for his horn beam. The Ultimates doesn't come with beam effects or blast effects or anything like that either, and I don't get that, except for one. I have one that was called Heat Ray, or that is called Heat Ray Godzilla. It's a glow-in-the-dark, and he does come with a head sculpt with a heat ray coming down. Or if you pre-order them from Super7's website, you can sometimes get like beam weapons or blast effects or things like that as a super pack add-on. But why can't we just get blast effects for these Kaiju just standard, just normal with them? Why does it have to be a special offer? Why does it have to be a special package? Why does it have to be a special release of a figure? Why do we get something like this that's not even scaled correctly? Even the buildings aren't scaled correctly with the Kaiju. So, I like these, I don't like these, and I do think they're too expensive. And I think this is an issue that Super7 has in general with a lot of their product, which is why I think you're seeing the end of a lot of Ultimates lines. Like, I don't think G.I. Joe Ultimates has legs left, if it's even still in consideration. We're probably seeing the end of the D&D Ultimates line. Who knows how much longer the Godzilla Ultimates line is. I feel like these were brought in to take place of the Ultimates, because the Ultimates, since the reissue of DESTOROYAH, I don't think we've seen them do much with the Godzilla Ultimates since they reissued DESTOROYAH. I might be wrong about that. Oh, no. There was Mothra and Bagan, I think, that came out earlier. I think it was mid this year. And that's about it. So, these are the Kaiju figures. These are the Super Kaiju. I believe you can get them at Target. I think they're Target exclusives right now. I do like these, but the price and what you get with them might be a deal breaker for me.